Hello, my friends. I'm back again with some more juicy stories and, of course, my insights on them. Today's first story is about OP, who revealed her father's secret to her half-brother and now is being blamed and shamed for that. Well, OP's father should learn one simple truth in life, that the truth always comes out in the end, no matter how hard you try to hide it or stop it. Lies are just a temporary delay to the inevitable. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 23 female parents separated before I was born due to my father's affair. Growing up, I never had much interaction with my father or his new family because my mother had custody of me. My parents did not divorce on good terms, and my father even asked for multiple DNA tests because he thought my mother was conning him for child support. I didn't find out about the circumstances of their separation until I was older, and by then, my relationship with my father was already non-existent. Still, when I became a teenager, I found out that I had siblings and tried to reach out to them. I had thought I was an only child until I was 15. On the rare occasions I was allowed to visit, I was always treated coldly by my stepmother and my father. It was difficult to get closer to my siblings because of how rarely I saw them. I was fine with that as long as it didn't seem like my siblings hated me. Recently, I met up with my brother, 20 male, to catch up. While we were talking, he accidentally let slip that my father and stepmother had been telling my siblings that my mother was the one who came between their marriage. They told me that my mother was a jealous ex who kept hounding them when they were happily married. I was out of my mind with anger. I showed my brother all the documents proving my mother had been married to our father and that he had cheated with my stepmother. My brother refused to believe it, shouted at me and left. I thought that was that and was feeling pretty sorry that I had ruined my relationship with my brother. The next day, I got a call from him, and it turned out that he had confronted his parents about it. They admitted the truth, and he got in a big fight with them. He came to my place and is now refusing to speak to his parents and says he'll cut ties with them. My sister, 21 female, is angry that they never told her and won't come back from college to see them. My youngest sibling, 18 male, is taking his parents' side and says that I've completely ruined their family. My phone has been blowing up with texts and calls, and even my mother wants me to apologize for what I did. They're saying that I stirred trouble for no reason and am bitter about my own circumstances, so I'm trying to put my siblings in the same situation. At the time, I was just angry, and I thought I was justified. But now I feel like I made my siblings' life more difficult. I don't want them to ruin their relationship with their parents, and it's not like I was forced to tell them about it. I just wanted to clear my mom's name. My brother is clearly very upset, and the whole family is up in arms. I think I should have just kept quiet. Am I the a-hole for sharing a secret I shouldn't have and ruining my siblings' relationship with their parents? Well, what can I say, guys? OP's father and stepmother chose to lie, and now their lie is catching up to them. I do feel bad for the kids, as they're innocent in this. Why parents think their lies will never catch up to them is beyond me, but they made their bed and can lie in it. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Relative Department 87 says, "Not the a-hole. Your father and stepmother were cheating, and later lying and making your mom the bad guy. You only told the truth. It wasn't with ill intent. The oldest kids are distancing themselves from toxic, egotistical people, and the youngest child doesn't want to hear the truth. Tell your father and his wife that it isn't your fault that they are immoral, lying people, and then no contact." Wind River 7 says, "Not the a-hole. Put the blame where it belongs, on your father and stepmother. If they had not lied, this situation would not exist. But bad-mouthing your mother was more important than the truth, and they are reaping the consequences. Whether your siblings decide to forgive their parents is their choice. You have no responsibility for their actions." Cavane 46 says, "Not the a-hole. The daft thing is, they got into this situation by not taking responsibility. They could have told their kids your father was married before, and are making it worse by not taking responsibility now." I, 28 female, just had my first child in September. It's been an adjustment with virus, but we're doing as well as to be expected. However, something is really draining the joy away from this special bonding time with my child. My mother-in-law is upset with my husband and I over the middle name we have chosen for our daughter. She is offended, hurt, and can't let it go. The chosen middle name, Anne, happens to be an homage to my own grandmother. When we announced to the mother-in-law in May that we were calling our baby girl Fiona Anne, she got immediately upset. Anne was the name of someone in her past who she was deeply hurt and betrayed by, and I guess she still holds on to that grudge. She said she would be just as hurt if we went along with our plan to include Anne in our daughter's name. At the time, I was very pregnant and pissed off and sassy, and I pretty much told her that she'd have to get over it and be excited for new context to be added to the name. And that was that, until my daughter was born. Now she will not talk to us. She has blocked my number. When I try to text her baby pictures, they are never delivered. She has been talking to people close to us about how hurt she is. She will not directly address this with us, but we've heard from my brother and sister-in-laws that my mother-in-law is beside herself over this. She thinks I chose the name on purpose as some kind of power move or slight to her, which is just not true. All I wanted was to include my grandmother's name in my daughter's name because that's always been important to me. Am I the a-hole for picking a name for my child that my mother-in-law told me would hurt her feelings? Edit. Evil Anne was in fact my mother-in-law's own evil mother-in-law, my husband's grandmother on his father's side. They had a huge falling out following a messy divorce 25 years ago. However, my husband has no contact with that side of the family and no memories of Evil Anne, due to estrangement and the fact that they live an ocean away. So to him, Anne didn't strike a bad chord. He barely knew about this deep resentment for his grandmother until we brought up the name in the spring. Edit 2. For those asking what exactly the exchange in the spring was like, this is the answer I gave to someone in the comments below. I said that she'd have to get over it, because my grandmother's, who I had a great relationship with, name was Anne, and it's kind of a tradition in my family. To give more background, I am across the country from my own family. They live on the East Coast and we live on the West Coast. And since they won't be able to meet our daughter for maybe a long time, I also wanted to include them by choosing a family name. At the time we announced the name to my mother-in-law in the spring, she said that Anne was the name of her estranged ex-mother-in-law who hurt her deeply during the divorce. She said please don't use that name. She was very upset. I was the size of a planet and feeling some strong emotions as well. And after I said get over it, it's important to me to include my family, she kind of huffed and puffed and said whatever you guys want, it's your baby. We never heard anything about it again after that and had normal interactions with her over the summer. My mother-in-law is happily married to a new man for the last 10 years, so I kind of thought, well, she should maybe be over this by now. My mother-in-law also creates drama any chance she gets, and I normally bend to her will to avoid being a part of it. I put my foot down this one time, and look what happens. It's a middle name, for heaven's sake. OP's mother-in-law has the association, not OP or OP's husband, I assume. If she's willing to throw away a relationship with her grandchild and her son because of a name association, she's got some seriously disordered thinking. And now let's see what the community says. Shih Tzu Piss says, not the a-hole. This sounds very strange. Is there more to this story? Because her reaction doesn't match the offense. Marjorie Meanwell says, not the a-hole. Mother-in-law is being very immature. I'm reminded of the saying, holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Mad Midnighto says, not the a-hole. This lady sounds extremely self-centered. Anne is also a very common middle name. Me and my mom both have Anne as our middle names. Honestly, good riddance. She decided to make a joyful time all about herself. Good riddance, OP. If she's cutting out her grandchild over some ancient feud with some entirely irrelevant rando, then you don't need her in your life at all. This happened a few years ago, and it recently came up again. I don't think I was the a-hole here, but I'll let the collective third-party judge. My daughter was set to graduate college and wasn't too excited about attending her graduation. I thought this was unfair because I paid for her college, and graduation is supposed to be fun and a chance to let loved ones celebrate too. So she agreed after I made that argument. A few weeks in advance, my daughter asked if I had invited anyone to her graduation because she wanted to go to a certain restaurant afterwards, and they apparently book fast. I told her I only invited a couple of the neighbors and our family friends. The day of her graduation, we all went to the venue and waited for the ceremony to begin. After it did, I called my daughter asking if she could see me in the bleachers, and even waved so she could see me. I asked her to wave back, but I couldn't see her do so, and she wouldn't stay on the phone. After the ceremony, I had to call her multiple times because everyone there wanted to congratulate her. I saw her taking pictures with her friends I never liked, and told her to hurry up because it's rude to ignore your guests. When she finally joined us, she saw there were more people than she booked a table for. She called the restaurant, and they told her they couldn't accommodate extra people, causing her to cancel her reservation. I immediately suggested another place, which I knew had vegetarian options, because all of us except my daughter are vegetarian. What if that place had limited vegetarian options? We all went out to eat at the place I suggested and went home. That day was never spoken of again until recently. My younger daughter graduated over the spring, but for obvious reasons, she didn't get a graduation ceremony. The older one immediately said she'd trade if she could, because it was a crappy day. I immediately asked her why she thought that, and she snapped at me. She said she only went to her graduation because it was on Mother's Day, and it made me happy, and that the whole day was me calling the shots and blowing up her phone from start to finish. She also said that she knew I was in the bleachers, and she couldn't just stand up and wave in the middle of the ceremony, that she at least wanted to take some pictures with her friends, but I rushed her out of doing that, and deliberately schemed to make sure we went to the same place I always want to go, whose dishes I make at home every day. I told her that we, her family, cared more about her than her friends, and that she ended up going to the other restaurant with her friends for her birthday a few months later, so it's not like we prevented her from ever going to that restaurant. I also reminded her that her guests were vegetarians, and asked what if they didn't have any vegetarian options at her restaurant. She said she didn't want to argue over what's already happened and left the room. So who's the a-hole here? Wow. Yes, of course OP is in the wrong here for the reasons stated by her daughter. OP's daughter should have been allowed to celebrate and not feel pressured. The most obvious part is OP not communicating the right number of people to her and causing the cancellation of the reservation. That sure seems deliberate. My fickle mind says, way to make your daughter's graduation all about you. Did you also make sure everyone knew how you paid for her college, so her graduating was all because of you? You're the a-hole. Peanut Buttercups 56 says, you're the a-hole for all the reasons your daughter mentioned. She already didn't want to go to the ceremony, but since you wanted it, she agreed. She made a reservation at a restaurant that she wanted for her graduation. You took away all the things that would have made it fun for her. Graduation is structured. You aren't supposed to stand when your name isn't being called. You invited people she didn't want there. Not that she dislikes them, but you invited more people than she wanted. On her graduation day, you forced her to go to another restaurant and kept her from her friends on graduation day. Nellie Spitzig says, you're the a-hole. You made the entire day about yourself on a day that was supposed to be a celebration of your daughter's accomplishments. You were rude from the beginning, made it clear you didn't like her friends, didn't plan anything and expected your daughter to, and then screwed the plan up and had to do something last minute anyways. If that happened at my graduation, I would have been pissed. And the kicker is, you don't even think you did anything wrong. Own up to your mistakes and selfishness, and apologize to your daughter for making her important day about you. My sister has a daughter, 15, with her ex-husband. When she was pregnant with her, her ex turned out to not be a very kind person. All the kindness and understanding we had seen before was gone, and by the time my niece was born, she was done. They had reached the point of no return. When my niece was 4, she met her husband. Her ex was pissed, forbade my sister from having her husband around my niece, even took her to court to say he wasn't allowed to interact with his daughter. The court laughed it off, of course, but her ex was very quick to be loud about how my brother-in-law was nothing to my niece and how he would never be anything to her. My sister brought it to the court, but nothing happened, and they went about life as normal, sharing equal custody of my niece and living life. She has 3 more kids with brother-in-law, ages 9, 7, and 4. My niece is very quick to correct anyone who calls them her siblings, and adds in the half, or says they're not her real siblings. My sister has corrected her, has punished her, and has told her that half is not a term they use. They are siblings, and that's it. My niece does not agree, and in the 9 years of having a younger sibling, she has never said just sibling. She has almost no relationship with her younger siblings. And my sister is pissed. Like, she has told us she is ashamed of niece, and is disgusted with her. She has told her she is ashamed and disgusted, and will come back to us even more angry, because that doesn't change how my niece feels or acts. She told me and our brother the other day that she is disgusted by her daughter, and she can't stand who she is, and she's thinking of locking her up all summer to get through to her. I told her she's blaming my niece too much when she knows it's coming from her ex. That she should try to understand better that my niece is caught between what she says and what her dad says, and while we all think he's an a-hole, she thinks the world of her dad. She would defend him with her dying breath, and is going to be caught up in what she said. I said it doesn't make her being mean right, but that anger needs to go toward her ex for this, and not the kid who is stuck in the middle. My brother backed me up and said at the end of the day, niece didn't ask for any of this and is still growing and learning. My sister was pissed though. She said, how dare I think she's being too hard when she can't just think of niece, and how dare I think she's not mad at her ex. She tore both of us up and down for it and told us we were unsupportive, judgmental a-holes. And she is still mad with a capital M. Am I the a-hole? Well, all I can say is that OP is absolutely right and said it perfectly. Let's see what the community thinks about it. Flea's Mom 20 says, not the a-hole at all. What you said is right, and somehow niece may come to understand she has been under the influence of her dad. But your sister can't force her to acknowledge her siblings. Goju Susie says, not the a-hole. You got the situation correct. She's angry at her ex's influence and taking it out on the kid, which is wrong and will only make the kid less likely to see the problem with it. As to overstepping, well, she invited comment by ranting to you about it. If she didn't want your opinions on the matter, she shouldn't be bringing the topic up to you. Tennessee Scatterbrain says, not the a-hole. The poor kid is probably brainwashed by her father. Punishing her is only going to make her angry at her mother and siblings, and being ashamed and disgusted by your child doesn't make for a healthy environment for that child. In the happy blended families I know, the siblings only use half or step when it's relevant or will clarify a situation.